Before its release in 2009, few would have predicted that Rocksteady's Batman Arkham Asylum would have such a massive impact on the gaming landscape. The title, which was followed by 2 sequels, a prequel, and various other spin-offs spanning comic books and animation, challenged players to reconsider the way they saw superheroes in the gaming medium, with the studio pioneering a brand new formula that combined hard-hitting combat with competent stealth and detective elements to let players truly embody the Bat. Much like Batman the Animated Series before it, which doubled as a key inspiration behind Rocksteady's series, Batman Arkham opted for its own take on the Dark Knight, one that's resonated across a broad spectrum of Bat fans and has resulted in numerous accolades and commercial success. And yet, for the last 5 years, and at the time of recording, fans haven't heard so much as a peep from publisher Warner Bros. About Batman Arkham. So what's the deal? What exactly has happened to keep such a beloved franchise off consoles for nearly half a decade? Stories that have emerged in the years following Arkham Knight's release paint a tumultuous picture behind the scenes at Warner Bros., with cancellation after cancellation affecting the publisher's Montreal studio, and, if rumour is to be believed, Rocksteady too. Cancellations and rejected pitches are part and parcel of the industry cycle, but for them to have stymied progress on one of the last decade's most popular series for this long is truly incredible. Numerous leaks and reports have also meant that we now have our best understanding yet of what these cancelled projects would have looked like, with concept art in particular captivating imaginations, even while WB Montreal gear up to formally announce their long-awaited sequel/reboot to Batman Arkham Origins. So, what really happened to these cancelled projects, and why has it taken so long for WB to progress the series since Arkham Knight? I'm Ewan from WhatCulture Gaming, and today I'm asking what really happened to WB's cancelled Batman Arkham games. To really understand what's gone on behind the scenes with Arkham's cancellations, you have to go back to 2013 with the release of Batman Arkham Origins. Developed by Warner Bros. Montreal, Origins was the first game in the series not to be made by Rocksteady, and was also a prequel to Arkham Asylum. With Arkham City's bombshell ending sending fans into a never-ending K-hole of speculation and debate, many were disappointed to discover the next title wouldn't answer their burning questions, and that Rocksteady, who by that point were synonymous with the franchise, wouldn't be involved. This put Origins on a poor footing to win fans over, and while I very much still believe it's the strongest entry in the franchise, bite me, owing to its superb story and Yuletide theme, consensus is only beginning to shift in that direction. One thing that even Origins' most vehement detractors will concede, however, is that the game showed promise. It was clearly designed as a stopgap to tide fans over while Rocksteady were crafting Arkham Knight for the then next generation of consoles, but Origins showed the promise of a burgeoning studio who obviously knew a thing or two about the DC universe, as was reflected in the prequel's many Easter eggs and references. Those who played Arkham Origins will no doubt recall how the ending built towards something to do with the Suicide Squad. The final cutscene depicts Deathstroke being approached by Amanda Waller, with CCH Pounder reprising her role from the Justice League cartoon, while certain Easter eggs in the title alluded to potential other members, including Captain Boomerang. Montreal also took the liberty of seeding other potential plot threads for a presumed sequel, including references to the Court of Owls, the presumed antagonist of their upcoming title, and even the Phantasm from the movie of the same name. The signs were clear. WB were promising to deliver a game centered around the Suicide Squad, at the same time efforts were being made to push the group in other media, with the animated Batman Assault on Arkham film arriving in 2014 and the Will Smith-fronted blockbuster coming 2 years later in 2016. The stage was set for Task Force X to make their full game debut, but some 3 years after Arkham Origins' release, WB decided to pull the plug. Why? Back in December 2016, Jason Schreier reported for Kotaku that WB Montreal had cancelled their unannounced Suicide Squad game. There had been rumours before that the studio were working on a title about the squad, but this was the first time it was ever confirmed outside of a comment here or there from DC writer Jeff Johns. Schreier's report mentions that it was at this time that Montreal moved on to their Damian Wayne Batman title, but not before spilling the beans on what went on behind the scenes. The game was said to have a co-op focus, but ostensibly failed to impress Warner Bros. Management, which eventually resulted in its cancellation and Montreal shifting their full attention to the Damian Wayne concept, which had started development earlier that year. Schreier also notes how this was followed by a quote-unquote turbulent few years at the studio, with multiple key members departing, including Arkham Origins creative director Eric Holmes, who swapped WB for DICE in 2015. Story-wise, there isn't much to go off on what Suicide Squad would have been like. We can only assume from the hints in Origins and its handheld counterpart, Arkham Origins Blackgate, that the team would have comprised Deathstroke, Bronze Tiger, Deadshot, and Rick Flag Jr. Amanda Waller would have also had a key role, while Harley Quinn features in multiple leaked images of the game's concept art, which you can see here, and oh boy, that suit looks awesome. Getting the timeline for Suicide Squad right is tricky, but if we take Johns' comments as fact, then it appears to have been in development at the time of Montreal's launch in 2010. Montreal is and was a big studio, so they would have been developing Suicide Squad and Arkham Origins in tandem, hence all the links between the two. That also raises an interesting problem. After Origins, the Arkham formula was well established. If Suicide Squad was meant to be a co-op shooter along the lines of Destiny or Borderlands, would fans have been as receptive as they would have been to one with a more linear focus? It's kind of hard to tell. Rumours have even stated the project tried to pivot to Arkham-style gameplay before being cancelled altogether, with members like Deadshot and Katana swinging around on gargoyles, which isn't a pleasant image. Of course, without any concrete information, WB's cancelled Suicide Squad game will continue to be a mystery. Supposed marketing materials that advertised the title were leaked in April 2019, claiming that Gotham and Star City would be playable locations. The veracity of those leaks is questionable at best, especially when you consider the game was cancelled over 2 years prior, but with both WB and Rocksteady seemingly pivoting to games as a service, more on that later, one has to ask if elements of Suicide Squad will be incorporated into one of the studio's upcoming DC titles. For one reason or another, the project just wasn't meant to be, and with Rocksteady then primed to conclude their Batman series with Arkham Knight, WB needed another studio to carry the bat-shaped torch. Montreal's Suicide Squad was an unknown quantity. Apart from its cast and co-op focus, there's no way of telling what it would have looked or played like. Their next project, however, well, it's easier to consider the possibilities. Batman is one of those properties that conjures familiarity. Audiences know the story and world inside out, but here's the thing, some of the best interpretations of Batman throughout the rulebook entirely. Batman Beyond garnered huge acclaim by telling the story of a teenage Batman and a Blade Runner-inspired cyberpunk version of Gotham, while other works like Justice League Gods and Monsters have also boldly divested from the character's more typical depictions. One of the best reinventions of the Dark Knight to appear on the page came during Grant Morrison's run on the character in the late 2000s. In the suitably hellish Batman number 666, Morrison and artist Andy Kubert whisked readers away to a dystopian version of Gotham where a supernaturally powered Damian Wayne is the new Cape Crusader. A little too extreme for mainstream audiences, perhaps, but Montreal recognised that there's something inherently compelling about throwing out the rulebook. If it were for Batman Beyond and Morrison, why wouldn't it for them? The resulting project was almost a mishmash of Batman Beyond and Batman 666, but with Montreal's own aesthetic on top. What's come to be known as the Damian Wayne Batman game entered development sometime after the release of Arkham Knight, and would have acted as a sequel set decades in the future, with Gotham giving off some serious escape from New York vibes, and new villains providing Damian with his own gallery of rogues. While rumours of the Damian Wayne game had persisted for about a year by the time Suicide Squad's cancellation became known, it wasn't until 2019 that concept art of the title actually emerged, and by that point, it was clear that it too was cancelled. Still though, the leaked art gives us valuable insight into what Montreal were aiming for, and may also go some way in verifying earlier leaks and rumours that were at one time discredited as myth-truths. Like Morrison's 666 universe, the Damian Wayne title would have utilised a dystopian version of Gotham as its sandbox, well, more dystopian than usual. New versions of classic Bat enemies would have also been present, with art depicting a female Black Mask, an older Two-Face and White Rabbit, Gorilla Grodd, and also what would appear to be Joker's daughter, possibly even Dula Dent. Reports at the time had claimed this was the new Poison Ivy, but the clown makeup surely intimates otherwise. The art also gives us a better look at Damian, still sporting a shaved head and a relatively obscured look at his Batsuit. Even more juicy though is the presence of a Bat Cycle, a long-rumored mechanic that WB are now said to have integrated into their upcoming Arkham title, and a missing piece in the puzzle that may finally vindicate earlier rumours surrounding Montreal's Arkham projects. Earlier rumours surrounding the Damian title, first reported by French website addictedtoseries.com, claimed the open world would have been crowded and have a day and night cycle. This report was also the first to mention the Bat Cycle, as well as an upgradable Batcave that would have presumably built off the one seen in Arkham Origins. Sadly, the Damian Wayne Batman game was cancelled sometime around 2016 or 2017, with Jason Schreier confirming as much while appearing on the Kinda Funny YouTube channel in March 2018. It's unclear why WB passed on the project in the the end. While further info regarding the cancelled title is still forthcoming, it wouldn't be disingenuous to assume the boldness of the pitch had something to do with it. To the vast majority of audiences, Batman is Bruce Wayne. Departing from that in such a big way may have been seen as a risk, ensuring Montreal's compelling new take on the Arkhamverse fell at the first hurdle. Despite the Damian Wayne concept succumbing to cancellation, rumours since have claimed that certain elements of the title will feature in WB's new Batman game, including the day and night cycle, as well as Batman's motorbike. Still though, God, I really wish this one actually happened. It looks so cool. Give me Damian Wayne Batman 666, please. Please, at least as a skin in the next title, maybe. Of course, there's one other rumour that's followed Rocksteady and Montreal for the past 5 years, and it ain't got nothing to do with Batman. When Rocksteady announced that Arkham Knight would be their last Batman game, fans were convinced they'd be moving on to another DC character soon enough. Cue the game releasing, it including all sorts of references to Superman, including a speaking cameo from Lex Luthor, and the entire Arkham fandom losing their goddamn minds. Rocksteady was surely working on Superman next, they just had to be. Or so the story went. In the years since Knight's release, pinpointing what it is exactly that Rocksteady are working on has proven almost impossible. The studio have been working on a new project for some time now, but leaks and rumours have been scarce. Creative director Sefton Hill even took to Twitter back in 2018 to rubbish claims that Rocksteady were working on a Superman game, so what exactly has been going on? This is where things start to get even messier. Tweets from Geeks Worldwide's James Sigfield last year claimed that WB had been receiving pitches from multiple studios for a Spider-Man PS4-style open-world Superman game since 2013, which is where earlier leaked batches of concept art had come from. Although Sigfield stated all were rejected, he emphasised that WB could still be working on a Superman project right now, a statement he reiterated in a report this February claiming that Montreal's new Batman game is still on for a full 2020 release. More recently though, Sigfield also claimed that one of those rejected pitches for a Superman game came straight from Rocksteady themselves, which is a bit of a shocker. WB's apparent reluctance to embrace Superman is disappointing, but not all that surprising. The character has a notorious history when it comes to video games, and if even Rocksteady failed to win over the publisher on their pitch, that should convey how daunting a challenge the Man of Steel presents. That doesn't mean the publisher have remained inactive though. These cancellations reek of indecision, but WB have held off long enough for both Rocksteady and Montreal to make huge leaps over the last few years. 2020, as it turns out, might just be the year they finally lift the lid on what they have in store. So, after all the cancellations, leaks, rumours and rejected pitches, what are WB Montreal actually working on in the here and now? What have they been teasing for the past year and a half? By this point, it's all but confirmed that Montreal are working on a Batman game that will feature the Court of Owls as the main antagonists. Leaked concept art of the title emerged in 2018, and in that time, numerous rumours have made their way onto the web. Is it Batman Arkham Legacy, a sequel to Arkham Origins with a co-op focus, or is it a full-blown Arkham reboot, one that's completely divested from the Arkhamverse players have grown so accustomed to over the last decade? Those answers should hopefully still be coming at some point this year, but I do want to focus on something else about the legacy/reboot rumours/speculation. For one, the project is said to include both a co-op mode and the Bat family. This would, assumedly, present a huge departure from the single-player-oriented Arkham games of yore, and may be emblematic of WB's desire to integrate monetizable aspects into their series, as was notoriously evidenced in 2017's Shadow of War. But regardless of whatever focus Montreal's new Batman takes, we know for a fact that they are working on at least one other project. Senior designer Osama Dorias disclosed back in October 2018 that the studio were working on, quote, a couple of projects related to DC IP, and that he'd been involved in development on both titles. One is of course Batman, but the other has so far proven to be elusive. Is it finally Superman? A return to Suicide Squad perhaps? Only time will tell. And thus we finally come to Rocksteady. The London-based devs have been hard at work fashioning their next DC project ever since wrapping up development on Arkham Knight in 2015. So what is it, and what do we know so far? Coming off the back of Arkham Knight, everyone thought that Rocksteady would apply their single-player formula to a different DC character. As I've already mentioned, the assumption for the longest time was that said character would be Superman, but it's not. In fact, the next title might not even be single-player at all. Since 2018, Rocksteady have been hiring developers with experience working in games as a service. GAAS titles have proven hugely popular over the last console generation, with Bungie's Destiny galvanizing the genre back in 2014. This year, Square Enix will bring the first superhero games-as-a-service title to market in Marvel's Avengers, a game that will allow players to take control of Earth's mightiest heroes alongside their friends in an evolving world supported through constant updates post-launch, one that's also widely expected to tie into Insomniac's Spider-Man game from 2018. One could argue that Marvel have stolen a march over their old rivals, which is why Rocksteady's pivot from single player to multiplayer is so intriguing. Is this a reactive move from WB? Are they playing to Rocksteady's strengths? Both questions are worth asking, and especially so given the publisher's last two cancellations were for single-player oriented DC video games. Regardless of the cancellations that have afflicted both studios, there is still the matter of what this upcoming games-as-a-service title will entail. Justice League seems like the most obvious prediction, while supposed leaks for a Suicide Squad title last year may yet reveal how WB have revisited one of their long-abandoned projects. As ever, concrete details are still forthcoming. At the beginning of the year, it looked as though players would finally get their answers. Unfortunately though, due to ongoing events, WB were unable to reveal their unannounced projects, with Jason Schreier reporting back in March that the publisher were due to finally peel back the curtain on their DC titles at this year's now cancelled E3, originally scheduled for June. It's such a shame, both for the fans and the developers working hard behind the scenes. One would hope WB has something else planned to make up for E3's cancellation, a Nintendo Direct style event that will showcase their in-development projects perhaps, but word has gone quiet yet again. Here's hoping that this time they won't stay silent for too long. And yeah, that was pretty much everything I could find on WB's cancelled and in-development Batman Arkham projects. Let me know your thoughts on the current state of the franchise down in the comments below, and please don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I've been Ewan, catch me on Twitter at EwanRunesThings, and I'll see you next time, hopefully by which point I'll have announced a new Batman game.